Hey, what is going on YouTube? It is GeneralTarheel, your coach of the Charizards, bringing you the APA Season 5 Week 1 match versus Coach Panther 2 and the Carolina Clefables. Now, if you didn't check out the draft analysis for this season, or at least the first 4 weeks of the season, make sure to check it out because, of course, you know, or if you don't know, we're doing 3 drafts for the season. So for this team that I have right now, I will have it for 4 weeks. And our first opponent for those first 4 weeks and this team is going to be Panther 2, one of the commissioners of the APA and my good friend. One of the first people that I faced in APA, one of the people I continuously have faced multiple times. He always seems to have the upper hand on me. The only time I beat him once was in P4G Next Gen. An amazing battler. So good to go to him whenever I need to for like team building help or opinions. Also, he was the one that actually dragged me back into the season of APA. I really wasn't even considering doing draft until the next generation of Pokemon Gen 8. But Panther just got me right back into it. He knew that I wanted to upload to YouTube because I did kind of miss doing this. So he was really just the homie and making sure, or checking out for me and all that good stuff. But Panther, I was definitely afraid of his team. He drafted a bunch of stuff he's just really comfortable with. One of the noticeable ones you see on the screen is Clefable, which he's just really good at using. I'm not going to go too in-depth on like the team builder and the teams and stuff like that. I normally take too long otherwise if I do so. But as you can see on the screen, I brought Incineroar, Registeel, Mega Heracross, Whimsicott, Gengar, and Electrode. And now for the sets, I really had to work around them kind of carefully. There was a few things I was considering bringing early on. It was kind of weird. I didn't bring like Dragonite, Mew, or Nidoqueen or anything like that this time around. I actually brought kind of low stuff and then just my Gengar and Mega Heracross. Once again, Panther's team was really scary, but it's like something still did so much work to it. The 6 that Panther brought was Garchomp, Milotic, Mega Aggron, Azelf, Swellow, and Clefable. Now I was expecting these 6, except for Milotic being swapped out with Alolan Muck. The only reason behind that is that it's a direct check to Gengar, and it really helps him versus my team because Gengar really just destroys his team if that thing's gone. Sure, he can have a Revenge Killer in both Azelf and Swellow if Gengar's not Scarf, but it still kind of just breaks apart his walls, like with the Focus Blast Z on Mega Aggron, and then just having the Poison type coverage for Clefable, which is his main way of stopping like my setup offensive mons that I could have brought in like Dragonite and Linoon, which would have been very nice for the team because then they would have been able to potentially sweep and stuff of the sort. But nonetheless, the SIG was close to what I was expecting. If you were to swap one of the other ones out apart from Alolan Muck, I was also guessing his potential Decidueye and stuff like that. But as for my 6, I decided to start off with Mega Heracross, just go with pretty much an all-out attacking kind of bulky set. I had 180 EVs and attack with an Adamant Nature. This is all I needed to, I believe it was to hit KO with, to two-shot with Rock Blast on Clefable after I knock it off and get rid of its leftovers. So after it comes in on Stealth Rocks, if it's unaware, Rock Blast will 2-hit KO with, of course, the 5 max hits on each because Mega Heracross does have Skill Link. Or if I knock it off and get rid of its leftovers and its Magic Guard, then I for sure will take it out. That's a max defensive Bolt Clefable. And then the rest, I have 236 in HP and then enough in speed. I believe it was to slightly outspeed a Milotic that might try to creep me. Mega Heracross actually does so much damage to his team. It had Close Combat, Rock Blast, Knockoff, Substitute. The Substitute felt like would be kind of free, and it was really helpful because it could like really force Swellow to come in, and he can't risk like going hard Swellow 1 because Mega Heracross is going to knock it out with any move, apart from probably Knockoff. And then also he's just forced to revenge it with Swellow. And I actually have a perfect counter to Swellow, which he kind of felt like was a potential, he told me later was a potential thought that crossed his mind, but I for sure wanted to bring it. It was one of the first ones I looked at when I saw this matchup, and that was Electrode with Assault Vest and Soundproof. Soundproof, of course, to stop that Choice Specs Boom Burst from Swellow, which does so much damage. Absolutely insane. Of course, I do have also a decent counter in that in Registeel, but Electrode just looked really free because once I was able to get rid of Garchomp, I Volt Switch on his team very freely, get a lot of ship off, and that allows Mega Heracross or Gengar just to absolutely one-shot anything on the team, basically. So for the Electrode, I had Foul Play, Thunderbolt, Hidden Power Ice, and Volt Switch. I was almost a max HP set with 28 28 HP investment in special attack. I believe it was to for sure get a KO on Swallow on neutral, or it was either to get it for sure to a KO on Garchomp with a Devour Ice. I think it might have been Garchomp. And then, so I had the Foul Play, Thunderbolt, Devour Ice, Volt Switch. Very, very good set to bring because it is like a direct counter to Swallow. The 220 in HP and 196 in Spit F allow me to eat hits for days. Heat Wave is probably the most damage he'd be able to do to me, and because of course Boom Burst is not going to be able to touch me, unless it was to bring like Specs Hyper Beam set. I knew it was a possibility that Physical Swallow would make it to this game, but I feel like Special just kind of benefit him more, because at least Special Swallow can still hit Registeel with Heat Wave, even though it's forced itself on the Choice Specs because it wants to do the most damage possible. If it goes to the Choice Specs Heat Wave on Registeel, that's, I believe, just shy of a 2 KO. It might be a 2 KO, even if I am max Spit F. I don't recall off the top of my head. But either way, Electrode's going to be a direct counter that Swallow. It allows me to also get a nice solid outspeed in both Azelf and Swallow, being able to potentially get a Volt Switch off on it. Basically, if Garchomp's gone, every time I come in on Swallow, every time I get a Volt Switch, I can get momentum into either Gengar or Mega Heracross and destroy his team. That was the idea behind that, and it does work pretty well in this match, and you guys will see that soon. But as well for the other wall breaker, I can go ahead and talk about Gengar. I absolutely loved Gengar in this matchup. I love Gengar period as a Pokemon. I had 196 EVs in speed with a naive nature, and I had basically the rest in special attack and 60 in attack. I had a little investment in attack because I had Sucker Punch on Gengar, as well as Focus Blast, Sludge Wave, and Shadow Ball. Of course, with that Fightinium Z to absolutely blow back Mega Aggron, as well as get a lot of damage on Alolan Muck if it was to come with the Assault Vest set. I get enough necessary chip off with something else, and then hopefully Fight Z would be able to knock it out around then, which I believe would be doing like 30% to an AV Muck. Honestly, not that much, but because it is really fat when it has that Assault Vest. But Gengar absolutely a massive threat to his team otherwise. Nidoqueen was also up there, but I felt like Gengar could do a lot more work, purely because Nidoqueen gets revenge easily from Garchomp and his elf and stuff like that. And at least with Gengar, I can work around Swallow and his elf, not so much Garchomp. So that was definitely something I wanted to take note going into this match. And offensive Ghost on Gengar is just so good. He can't really, his only normal type is Swallow, which is too risky for him to switch in on a potential Shadow Ball. So Shadow Ball spam is pretty free versus his team, because if I go for one Sludge Wave, Swallow is basically dead. So he really can't risk that, so that was the other reasoning behind that. Next up, for a solid support mon, I want to bring Whimsicott, which absolutely just tore apart his like really fat team, because I brought the Prankster Leftover set with Leech Seed, Substitute, Moonblast, and Tailwind. Shoutouts to Kelly or Under the Radar for this set, keeping in mind I was like max HP with some defense and enough speed to outspeed max speed Garchomp. Basically, I just wanted to be able to whittle down a lot of his things with just Substitute Leech Seed, get the necessary Prankster Tailwind for my potential either Mega Heracross or Gengar, and even Incineroar, just to be able to have them just wall break the rest of the team. Basically, set up and sweep with Tailwind is a possibility that Whimsicott would have been able to do. It also allows me to have another counter, just in case my Electrode was to go down. It allows me another counter to itself for Swallow. So. And next up for the team, I brought Incineroar. Incineroar had 68 HP, max attack, and 188 speed with a Jolly Nature. I don't completely recall the reasoning behind the speed. It might have just been for rebulking my Milotic again. I do believe that was the reason. I had Knockoff, Flare Blitz, U-Turn, and Taunt. I just felt like this was going to be do decent damage versus his team. Knockoff is a good scout for his Z users because he has two very good Z potential users in Garchomp and Azelf for this matchup. Also, it would be a direct counter to the Decidueye if he opted to bring that, because I felt like that was another potential possibility. Basically, the U-Turn also allows to give me momentum, once again, to just like Electrode, to be able to get Mega Heracross or Gengar in. Really abuse those two if I can. Taunt really avoids potential setup from like the Clefable, if it was to do such a thing. Stop rocks from Mega Aggron, even though I doubt he would keep it in the first place versus Incineroar, in all honesty. It also allows Taunt on the Milotic, so it can't be able to get off a Recover or anything like that. But I was really hoping Incineroar was able to do a lot of work versus his team, because I really wasn't expecting Milotic to come. Unfortunately, it did, because it didn't put... So Incineroar has less value in this game than I thought, but still very helpful with the Intimidate, the Ipapa Berry, of course, to eat a hit up. One ideal reason behind that is I get Intimidate off on Garchomp, I eat an Earthquake, gets me right to my Ipapa, I get my health right back up, and I live another Earthquake. So there's the reasoning behind that. just a really reliable mon. I felt like it was just a good 6th to bring. It was kind of just a fill-in Pokemon, to be completely honest, but I felt like it was pretty viable. And lastly, of course, just a basic Registeel Spadef set, which is a little speed. I believe it was to be able to outspeed Mega Aggron, just be able to get the necessary Seismic Toss off first if needed. Of course, Protect, Stealth Rock, Seismic Toss, and Toxic with the leftovers. Very, very basic set, but it's exactly what I needed. Toxic in case it is an unaware Clef, as well as just spreading it onto my Milotic. If it does have the Flame Orb, I want to try to get the Toxic off first or something of the sort, as well as like just toxing like Garchomp on a hard switch or something like that is always helpful, especially if it's like a Life Orb Garchomp set and it's taking a lot more damage over time. So that's what I was expecting going in, or that's what I prepared for going into this match, and I was really still scared of this match, don't get me wrong, but I felt like I had a good chance versus Panther. Normally he reads me like all living hell, because if you don't know, Panther records my matches. He recorded this one afterwards for me, because I don't have a capture card on my DS or anything. Definitely not investing at this point, because Nintendo Switch Life. Having a Elgato for that, but so starting off this match, I knew he was just going to lead Garchomp. It's either Garchomp or Incineroar 1, because I feel like those are the more main Stealth Rock available Pokemon in this match, I feel like. Clefable would want more coverage and like, I don't know, potential Cleric, kind of heal up his team, stuff like that. And Incineroar I would just want to lead with because of the potential Garchomp, like I mentioned before. I get a free knockoff, see if it has the Z move. If he leads Mega Aggron, I'm just going for a taunt immediately, because if he wants to go into my Milotic, that's a free taunt versus that. It locks it into a Scald and might force a double, something of the sort. Either way, I felt like Incineroar was a pretty good matchup, because once again, it also does have the U-turn in case I felt like that was going to be a pretty optimal play. So Incineroar just felt like the best lead possible for me, and I definitely wanted to try and like bait it out there as much as I can, because once I saw the Milotic, I knew this was going to be a little less viable, because I don't need Incineroar to wear down the Alolan Muck that's not on the team anymore. I really do wish Incineroar got Sucker Punch. I don't know why, to be completely honest, but it would have been really helpful for the Azelf and the Swallow. It would have been a lot more valuable of a Pokemon this match. But as for this, once again, I'm leading just versus the Garchomp, which goes for a raw Swords Dance versus me, which is very, very scary. I have, honestly, little ways to deal with this, and it's pretty intimidating because Whimsicott's not that strong, especially when I invested at Bulky, so Moonblast isn't going to be able to do too much. And also there's a good chance he's just running Poison Z. Or something of the sort to be able to knock out Whimsicott. But since he's got the +1, I am going to get knocked out, unfortunately, after the rough skin damage and then the Earthquake. Because he is at +1 now and not -1, so I'm going to go into Electrode here and bait out that my HP Ice is most likely to kill Garchomp. He's also, he should keep it healthy anyways, just because he knows I don't really have much for this in the back. So, I'm going to make the ballsy play though and Volt Switch with Clefable. I knew he wasn't going to keep it in. I know Panther, he values Garchomp very well. He does really well with it. He's drafted it many times before. And he goes right into Clef. See it as leftovers, and it's unaware because it took Volt Switch, not Stealth Rock damage, I apologize. But it's going to protect versus my Gengar as I go for the Shadow Ball. It's perfectly fine, I don't mind this. But like right here, I believe he's going to make the switch into Garchomp, protecting and going to go for the Sludge Bomb this following turn. If I went for a Shadow Ball, I would have been better off. I would have been able to 2-hit KO it no matter what. But this Sludge Wave is going to make it just shy of Shadow Ball killing, I believe. Or no, that's wrong. Yeah, Shadow Ball was in kill range. I believe it might have been just a chance, but either way, I go for it here because Garchomp is terrifying versus my team. Even though Gengar does a lot, it's going to be very helpful. But he makes a switch into Milotic anyways. He kind of eats it up, so it shows he's a Spadef with Flame Orb Marvel Scale set. So I am totally fine with this. I need to take Incineroar off of the thing. I just remembered that. Thanks for reminding myself, Ben. I'm a weirdo, deal with it. I'm going to go into Whimsicott right here on the Milotic. There's no reason for me not to. He goes right into Garchomp, which is kind of unexpected. There's no reason for me to substitute. No reason for me not to substitute here. I apologize. Because if he goes into Aggron, that's fine. If he were able to drop a Poison Jab I wasn't expecting versus Garchomp, and I just go for a raw Leech Seed, I lose my Whimsicott, which is very important for me in this game. So I definitely did not want that. And so he's just going to actually switch out Mega Aggron here. Doesn't even Mega. He just goes right into Swallow because he knows I'm behind the Substitute, which is clever because of course Boom Burst goes straight through Substitute. But since I have a direct answer to this, since he's going to want to take out the Substitute with Boom Burst, once again that was my reason behind Mega Heracross sub and as well Whimsicott Stall sub. I'm going to go right into Electrode after this turn after we get some nice Leech Seed chip off on Swellow. And Whimsicott is almost right back at full HP, which is very nice. I'm just going to make the hard switch. Yes, it's a waste of a Substitute, but Specs Boom Burst, Oko's Whimsicott, so there we go. Goes for the Boom Burst. There's Winky Face that's soundproof. I felt like this was a decent enough name for Electrode. Okay, so I really like Electrode, but when I was setting up this layout, nothing me bothered more than a perfectly circular or spherical shape, whatever you want to say, Electrode in that layout over there and not like fitting because he's just going like this the entire time. It's so annoying because he could fit there perfectly, but he's a annoyance. I go for a free Volt Switch right here. He goes right back into Clef like I'd figure. If you want a Garchomp, I kill it with HP Ice, so it's fine. So we get Gengar right back in, and I'm just going to click Shadow Ball once again in case Aggron wants to come hard in. That's the only reason me hitting that. He's not keeping Clefable in versus Gengar, so there's no reason for me to go for a hard Shadow, hard Sludge Wave. Right here versus Milotic, this was a potential roll. I needed kind of a higher one in my favor, and Gengar looks so creepy with this C move. He honestly does. Look at him, dude. He's just like, I'm gonna mess you up. I'm gonna give it to you good. Yeah. So I go for the Fight Z on Gengar right here. Once again, I only had the chance of knocking out Milotic here, and unfortunately, it lives on like 1, 2, somewhere around there HP. And I knew he was going to go for the recover. Is the only reason I kept in Gengar, and I just wanted to go for it. It was kind of ballsy on me because I do lose another for sure way of getting a lot of damage off on Mega Aggron, because I do lose, and I've already lost in Cineroar, which is one way of taking down Mega Aggron. So I'm really just relying on Mega Heracross and I guess getting plenty of Shadow Ball damage, or maybe trying to land a Focus Blast on Mega Aggron later. So I got to be aware of that. But I decided to go hard into Whimsicott on the Milotic, and he makes the nice play of going into Swellow. But once again, I have no reason not going Electrode. I'm going to go Electrode 1,000,000% of the time, all the time. Because no matter what he wants to switch into, Electrode can Volt Switch out, and at this point, he can kill Garchomp with Hidden Power Ice, so it's fine. He goes for the Heat Wave here, still does like absolutely nothing, like 20% maybe max. And unfortunately I get burned, which is really unfortunate because that takes down the usefulness of Electrode. But since I was burned, I knew for a fact he was going to go into Garchomp here, because even though I could catch me on a Volt Switch here, he gets a little bit more burn chip on Electrode, which is all he needs to really try and wear me down and keep Swellow in the back until he can continuously Boom Burst spam versus my team. So right here, I'm just going to let Mega Aggron Mega Evolve, and I'm just going to Volt Switch right out. I know for a fact he's going to go for Stealth Rocks right here. There's no reason for him not to. He prevents Electrode from continuously coming in and being a nuisance, as well as like Gengar, Whimsicott, Heracross, everything kind of neutral to Stealth Rocks. But since he's going to get his Stealth Rocks up, I'm going to get my own up as we go into Steel Yo Girl or Registeel. But he actually goes for the Raw Aerial Ace, which was really good because I already scouted that out in Mega Heracross. I knew this was a potential bring for him to use versus Heracross, so it was a good thing for me to go hard Registeel here and just trade rocks. I'm totally fine with this. Once again, it hurts him more with his Swellow than it does my team, especially since he's Choice Spec Swellow. He most likely is not going to go for a Defog versus my team. Even then, majority of the time, Registeel is going to be healthy in the back, so I can get Stealth Rocks up later time if I really need to. And even then, if he defogs, he gets rid of the rocks on my side of the field. So I'm completely fine with all that. Registeel 1,000,000% just stays in versus Mega Aggron and just spams Seismic Toss. I have no reason to switch. Earthquake's really not going to be doing too much, and plus I can just protect a leftover stall versus it if I really wanted to. So I'm going to go for a Seismic Toss versus him. His Aerial Ace does nothing. Registeel's almost back at full, basically. And we're just chipping down this Mega Aggron, doing very well. And he's going to go right into Milotic as I go for another Seismic Toss. And it gets really low once again, but it is going to unfortunately live just after burn, I believe. Just barely. Yeah, just barely. Because I was like, oh great, it's going to get another recover off. I'm just going to go hard Mega Heracross here, because after one burn, I should still be able to knock it out the following turn. but he decides to actually go for the Toxic. Knowing I'm going to make the switch, he probably expected Whimsicott instead of Mega Heracross. Electrode could also have been a potentially good play here, but Electrode doesn't do anything to his Spitef bulky Milotic. Still surprised he decided to make this play. I don't know if it was worth it necessarily, because Milotic was really good at walling versus my team. So I was really happy to see that thing drop pretty early, early compared to the rest of the game. But right here was an important part in the game. So Azelf. If you do not know, Azelf is a really scary Pokemon. I knew this thing could just set up and sweep me if I wasn't careful. And he goes for the raw nasty plot right here as I stay in, and I go for the knockoff. And I just wanted to for sure knock it out and kill it. If it was Culver Berry, that would have been a little bit scary. But luckily, we get the KO versus Azelf. The reasoning, I didn't switch anything out here. If he was just Fire Blast and he was getting it ready for Registeel and Nasty Plot, because that's one thing he mainly needed to do, I would have been able to eat it up, and I would have been able to just kill him with the knockoff skill. Mega Heracross lived any hit except for like a Life Orb Psychic. So I was just willing to stay in and kill this Azelf if it was possible. So it was one less thing for me to worry about in the end, which was very important. And I didn't get Garchomp off the thing either, I apologize. But at this point, I switched back into Electrode. Once again, it just eats the hit versus Swellow. Swellow is scared out once again, and it took Stealth Rock damage, which is really important. I'm just going to do the normal thing. Once again, I just Volt Switch out with Electrode. I'm able to switch that right back out, and now we're able to get Gengar in here versus the Mega Aggron, and he has no switch into this. It's a free Shadow Ball. There's no reason for me to click anything else. Once again, if Swellow wants to come in, it takes Stealth Rock damage. I just go right into Registeel at this point because Registeel is still healthy. I don't need Registeel for anything else. Sorry, I'm looking for Registeel. Or not looking for Registeel, I'm looking for Mega Aggron. And I got rid of Electrode. But once again, like the same thing I just mentioned, I'm going right into Registeel. There's no reason for me not to. He decides to go for the Boom Burst, which is still interesting. I guess he knew that Electrode would just be taking a lot of chip from there on and out. But I go into Reggie nonetheless. And right here, I'm going to make the Toxic play. There's no reason for me not to go for it, because if I get a Toxic on Swellow, it will 1,000,000% die to Stealth Rocks the next time it comes in here. As well as this Clefable does take Stealth Rock damage, so I know this Toxic, if it lands, it's going to stay poisoned. It's not able to set up versus me unless it's a Cleric set, and even that, I'll be able at one point to get Gengar in for free, and Sludge Wave just breaks the rest of his team. So at this point, I know I won the match. Panther knows I won the match, so he's just going to spam Moonblast versus my team and let Registeel just Seismic Toss the rest of his team. So we actually managed to 5-0 Panther, which is so big for the start of the season. I was really scared having him week 1 in all honesty, but for the weeks to come as we face Wolfey next week for week 2, aDrive for week 3, and JustKurt for week 4 with this team, I'm looking for the most positive outcome and trying to go 4-0 for the start of the season. I feel like I can do it. Yes, Wolfey was a world champ. aDrive's very well known, former GBA champion, and Kurt is Kurt. If he doesn't have the Calm Mind Tail Glow Manaphy, so I'll be able to take him out. But I'm not saying that. Kurt can give me a run for my money always. But I'm really hoping to go for it with this team so far. I'm liking it after this week 1 because it did so well versus Panther. Honestly, I wouldn't have played any other way in this game. The only thing I kind of wish is that Incineroar could have done more, but it was able to help me at least scout out the damage versus Garchomp, and I worked around Garchomp very well this match, I feel like. The match would have been completely different if he kept that Milotic healthy in the back. I feel like he should have recovered with it. I don't think the Toxic is worth it, but that's just my opinion. I understand his reasoning behind it still, but it would have just been a slightly longer and stallier match. But I was willing to go through that going into this fight because I know Panther really does like fat Pokemon. That's why he drafted Ololan, Clefable, Mega Aggron, Milotic. He does really well with those Pokemon. That's why he drafted him in the first place, because I know he wants to do well in this season and everything like that, as well as do I. That's why I drafted this nice support and offense that I love going with. So the team went really well. I'm really happy with Electrode's pivoting, being a direct answer to Swellow. I'm happy with the damage Gengar did. Mega Heracross was an absolute monster and was able to clutch it versus his Elf with the knockoff, which was the really solid play there. I stand by all my plays this match. I'm really happy about the outcome. Make sure to check out Panther. I'm pretty sure he live commed this match. He typically does. Go check out his reasoning behind his plays, as well as the real sets, or the reasoning behind sets and stuff in the 6 he brought. He talked to me a little bit behind the scenes, but I'm not going to share that. Make sure to check that out on his own channel to find out. I'm pretty sure he's just hit 300 subs if he didn't already before, so make sure to help him out if he hasn't. Either way, subscribe to him, get him like to 350, why not, as well as me. Just reached like above 310 again, which was good after I lost all the subs after I didn't upload anything for a while. So if you guys are returning or anything of the sort, I appreciate you guys for coming back. It was an amazing week 1 for APA, and I hope you stick around for the rest of the weeks. We are going to be uploading these Saturdays instead of Sundays. That was a change decided by the league, so you guys can enjoy like a Saturday and then the GBA Sunday if you really want to. So, but that'll be it for me for week 1, guys. Make sure to sub, like, share, deuces.